this is not muted before I hit play. Yeah, okay. This is nuts.
Kanye West is what happens when Negroes don't read. And we have this now, and now Donald Trump is going to use it and pervert it, and he's going to have somebody who can stand with him and take pictures. Just looking at Scott's
Listen, black folks are about to trade Kanye West in the racial draft, okay? They've had it with him, and he's an attention whore like the president. He's all of a sudden now the model spokesperson. He's the token Negro of the Trump administration.
What the hell? This is amazing. CNN just, oh my God. Don Lemon sitting there laughing at that. That proves that it's all about the politics. They have no F's given about racism, multiculturalism, all of the moral high ground soapboxes that they stand on. This situation flat out proves that they don't care about any of that.
Yeah. And I know people get riled up about the very name Louis Farrakhan for all sorts of reasons, but I've often pointed out, not as a fan or I'm not secretly a Nation of Islam guy or anything like that, but I mean, just as a point to just put out there, that man, Louis Farrakhan, has been very critical of Democrats, very critical of Hillary, and I'm not going to say he's praised Trump, but he hasn't torched him necessarily like CNN does on the regular. They would bring him on for a quote in a nanosecond a few years ago, or talk about, but when he's not completely on the same page as them, the objective, holier than thou media, he dropped off the face of the earth as far as them. So I'm not saying anything is like I'm taking sides or a big Farrakhan fan. I'm just using a person that's typically associated with things that would be more pro whatever or on the left that they don't even quote, because he's not playing team ball with them either, lockstep and everything else like that. So I mean, there's just examples everywhere if people want to actually look to see that that CNN is like completely on off the deep end and in the tank, not with race, not with rights, not with citizens, not with passing, good information or even just reporting. They're in the tank altogether for an agenda. And I'll just leave it with for an agenda and stop right there, because that could spin off any number of ways. And I think if you're a regular listener, you know what that is. If you're not a regular listener, we got a few hundred shows. Start on one and work your way, or just grab random ones that the title catches your fancy, digging through the archives. But they're an agenda propaganda company. The end.
Undoubtedly. I don't know how many clips we have to play to prove that. All right. Well, I don't know what to say about the whole politics
What's up?
thing.
What's up?
It's bananas. Hey, Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I guess you guys have been going for about an hour, and we're live at Jay's Analysis. I apologize to everybody. Got stuck in LA traffic, so boiler room for me on my end started a little bit late. But what'd I miss?
Well,
Jay, I really wanted to know what you thought about this. The icebreaker tonight is about these torture parks that are being they're called haunted houses in certain areas. There's one in LA, one in Las Vegas, one in Tennessee. I think there's probably more out there. But they're basically to give people that pay money like a victim's experience, and they're doing things to people that pay money to enter them, like to enter these parks.
Wow.
Things like waterboarding, electrocuting them. They're stuffing so-called used tampons in their mouths. They're strangling people, putting plastic bags over their heads.
What?
Yeah, people are paying to go to these things, dude.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they're called torture experiences.
And do you sign a waiver or something? How does this work?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull the waiver up here for one of them. I know I had.
I've got it. The first part of the waiver reads, I have been advised and acknowledged that graphic scenes of simulated extreme horror, adult sexual content, tight spaces, darkness, fog, strobe light effects, exposure to water, physical contact, and crawling are an integral part of the experience of the house.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they have a safe word to allow you to say stop. I don't want to do this anymore. And they're basically bragging that 70% of the people taking part in these hour-long events are using the safe word and saying, I want to get the fuck out of here because this is too creepy. The first video I saw was a woman that she walked into this so-called park, and a man with a mask came up from behind her and grabbed her and was strangling her with his arm around her neck, and she's just screaming, and there's other men coming up with her, coming up to her and poking at her with masks on as well. So, giving her a real victim experience.
Well, there's already a torture theme park called Disneyland where you walk around for hours and are subjected to, all of your senses being bombarded and attacked, and it's hot, sweaty, and shitty, and expensive, and yeah.
Well, honestly, when I was reading about this is exactly, you recently visited Disney World, this actually made me think about you talking about it with us on Boiler Room, and how people are paying to have these sort of surreal life experiences like these. But I've not seen anything like this where people are looking to be complete torture victims.
So it's like Disneyland for fans of Hostel movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this. We were talking about this earlier today. The explosion of these kind of scary theme parks getting more and more and more vicious and violent, and having to up the game each year, be more brutal than last year's, and I think what you're talking about takes the cake. So people can literally pay to experience mid-level torture. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, dude.
That?
There's a place in LA called Blackout, and they do this stuff there. It says there's.
Yeah, I see it here. Extreme Blackout, is that what it's called?
That's the one. That's the site.
Yeah.
So if anyone thinks we're crazy, go look at their website. It even says they have simulated sex also performed in a darkened, quote-unquote, rape dungeon.
Rape dungeon.
Wow.
This is bananas.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm reading it right off the article here. I'll drop you the link so you can put it up on your screen over there.
This is in the day and age of Me Too being trendy. The victim being trendy. This is so ass backwards.
Mm-hmm.
I am just flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking today about I'm surprised that I was watching some videos of people walking through horror theme parks, and I was kind of surprised people didn't turn around and punch people, because if you're genuinely scared, you kind of go into a fight or flight mode. I'm surprised some of the actors in these theme parks don't get punched, or maybe they do. I don't know.
I'm surprised too. I mean, is the soy boy apocalypse that bad now that people don't have that reflex reaction of self-defense?
Probably.
Yeah, it could be. You're right. They just take it and or ask their gal to help them out or something. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in trouble, folks. It ain't good. Soy boy apocalypse has hit. Whew, so yeah, that's the dark corner where we kicked the show off, Jay.
Well, I mean, where else can you go? I mean, I think if you brutalize and desensitize the populace, it just goes further and further down the spiral and gets worse and worse and worse. It becomes kind of hell on earth. I mean, that's kind of what I guess a lot of these people would like to see is hell on earth.
Yeah.
Right? Like Hellraiser's Hell Cube, like getting loose everywhere, right?
Yep.
What's that thing called?
Exactly.
I know he's Pinhead. He's not Hellraiser. He's Pinhead in his Saturn cube
configuration.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh man, I know, and people are paying for it. They're paying to go in there, get waterboarded, get choked with fake bloody tampons, bags over their head, and it's crazy.
Yep. Well, Jamie's here too, so she can describe her thoughts on. She was talking about Knott's Scary Farm being too scary for her a long time ago. So I don't.
Scary Farm?
Not Scary Farm is what it turns into.
Scary Farm. Yeah.
What?
You never heard that?
No, I mean, I love Peanuts, so Knott's Berry Farm was like I loved it because there was Snoopy and Charlie Brown there.
What is Knott's Scary Farm for the listeners, Jamie?
Every night in the month of October, or for the nights leading up to Halloween, after dark, they turn the theme park into an entire haunted house.
Oh.
With different mazes that you go through and all types of dead bodies hanging around and people jumping out of the bushes scaring you. It's scary. It's very scary. Like, even for an adult. Just to walk through. There's a couple of them that I wouldn't even go in because they were too intensely, like, really scary.
That's Jamie's assessment. That's not my assessment. I don't think Knott's Scary Farm. There's like gothic guys wearing like Kiss makeup and didn't really look that scary to me. But it was like a 1990s industrial Nine Inch Nails concert. And I'm like, it doesn't really look that scary to me.
You haven't seen it because some of their displays are really disturbing. Like, who would think of this? Like,
Hesher would. Hesher would think of it. Hesher and his Cannibal Corpse buddies would design. I'm just joking, man.
No, actually, you're not too far off. I had friends at college. There was I went to college on a campus that used to be a military base, one of the colleges I went to, and there was an old brig there. And the craziest haunted house I've ever been to was set up by the theater kids there at that college. They somehow got access to this prison, and it was on like a part of the campus it was like a campus / military base. They closed the military base down, turned it into the CSU Monterey Bay campus, and there's this prison there is nuts, dude. I mean, it had like the front door was literally this giant like 8-inch long skeleton key. It was crazy, and somehow they got permission to use it for setting up a haunted house. And what they did was they sectioned off like the first cell block. There was like the mess area, like the eating area was sort of like a entrance, and then the first cell block they had probably like 16 different cells that had, you know, like all different sort of like haunted house sort of themes going on in there, and actors, you know, using all practical makeup and all that stuff. And it was a really crazy haunted house. But I went in there after hours. I went in there for the after party when it was just like the crew left. Somebody had, you know, brought a keg of beer in there or something. It was just the crew hanging out doing their after party. If any theater students are out there, you guys know what those are like. And I walked through this prison because they had it like closed off, you know. So there was kids and families coming when it was when it was prime time, and very tame compared to what we're talking about here. But still, you know, fairly scary. But I walked into that sucker and walked past all of the cells that had been set up as you know, props and whatnot, and I went like way back into this prison, and man, that place had some really bad vibes. I'm talking like just chaotic, like sketchy vibes. And there's no power in this thing, you know what I mean? Like they had a generator powering the lights in that little area where they were doing the haunted house. But I mean, this prison is huge, and I walked back into the blackest part of it, and I literally hit a wall. Well, not literally. I hit a spiritual wall where I could not force my body to go any further into the darkness because it just had such a sketch vibe, and I was by myself, and I knew, they were going to close this thing, and nobody would open it again for another, it had been closed for years, probably a decade. I had to turn around. I just could not I could not summon any more bravery than I had to, get to where I was. But that was, that was kind of my crew. They did set up haunted houses, but they weren't strangling anybody or doing fake used condoms, making them walk on fake used condoms, or stuffing their mouths full of.
No, it's like you probably put your hand in a bowl of peeled grapes.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
We're told that you were touching eyeballs.
Here's the eyeball bucket.
I'm the Crypt Keeper. Tonight we're talking to Hesha.
Ghost stories with Hesher and the Crypt Keeper.
Well, today we went to the Warner Brothers studios and took a tour. And it was all dressed up for Halloween. They have their own scary Fright festival every night after dark. And they had, what was the big attraction? It was the big theme this year. Stephen King's It.
Did they have a guy dressed up like Pennywise the clown?
Not yet. We took the daytime tour, so we don't know what's going on there right now.
They hadn't started the horror maze or whatever you call it. It was just the studio style history and how the movies are made tour. But closer to Halloween, they turn it into these different, haunted mazes. And it's funny because the haunted mazes are the different sets that you've seen in different movies.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. We got a new Halloween movie coming out this month. That may be coming out this Friday or pretty soon.
Yeah, well, the theme is Camp Crystal Lake at the Warner Brothers haunted place. So that's isn't that Jason, Friday the 13th?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they turn it into there's a section where they have like a voodoo / what do they call it, like a tropical area. They have like a tropical area set still. They're the only studio that still has a tropical set, and they turn that into Camp Crystal Lake.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that at night when it's all creeped out and they got dude running around with hockey mask in there. Mm-hmm. Cool, man.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Warner Brothers. We were just kind of picking one of the studios to do a tour, and we randomly did that one. And we thought they would talk about the Matrix and stuff like that, but no, actually, it was all they were pushing was Batman and Wonder Woman and Dark Knight and Harry Potter, and then Friends. So Jamie wanted to see like the Friends set. So. So you get to see a few sets and you get to see the props and all. It was interesting to see stuff from the back end, but not a whole lot of. Actually, the neatest part I thought was to see some of the scenes from Lost Boys. So if you remember the church scene where they bust in and they grab holy water, the Frog Brothers in Lost Boys, we get to see that church, and we saw one of the houses from Gremlins. And I don't know, a few more random kind of old Batman sets and stuff.
Wow, I'm amazed how long they leave some of those up. That's crazy.
Well, they get reused.
Batman.
They use them for everything.
Batman,
you mean the Michael Keaton ones?
All of them, because they're all Warner Brothers. So for example, you'll see a house in a movie that's a set that might be somebody's house in Gremlins, and then it's used in Gilmore Girls, and then it's used in Friends. You know what I mean? It's like a weird kind of like they reuse all this stuff.
They have entire fake neighborhoods. They have.
Yeah, I took a whole bunch of pictures, like a giant fake neighborhood. It's like something out of a dystopian novel or something.
They had a giant city hall. They had a giant like Gothic style.
Yeah, within the Warner Brothers lot, there's like a whole city basically that functions as it has a neighborhood. It has
There's like 4 different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Chicago style, New York style, suburb style.
And then you've got like banks and city blocks and stuff like that.
There's like an old-timey town square.
Right.
That they use in a lot of things. But I didn't know Gilmore Girls was so popular. I don't know why.
Yeah, they were pushing some really weird things. Like, I guess they have cult followings or something. But
Big Bang Theory was huge.
Yeah, Big Bang Theory and Ellen and this kind of stuff. They were really pushing that. But the tour guy was like, what do you want to see? I said, I don't know, show us something about The Matrix. And she never did. So I would have thought that was like a $1 billion franchise. I would have thought that would have a draw. But no, we got to hear about Ellen and we got to hear about, I don't know, George Clooney stories. And I mean, it was worth doing. It was worth seeing a lot of the props. They have a giant 4-story warehouse that is props from everything. So I got to see like the birds that were used in the Maltese Falcon, for example. All those are still there. A lot of the set pieces. Well, actually, the only set piece left from Casablanca was still there. So we got to see one of the fronts of a building. So there's a lot of neat stuff like that if you're a movie buff.
That's cool. You guys walked in there and you were like, I want to see the weapons cases from The Matrix. And they're like, no, you get to see Ellen.
They had the chairs.
Yeah, right.
They had the leather chairs from The Matrix.
Yeah, we did get to see the when Morpheus is sitting there and he's like, what do you believe? And he's like, he offers him the 2 pills, those chairs.
Right.
Yeah, so we got to see those chairs.
Oh,
Yeah.
and there were 6 wax, Mr. What's his name?
They had a bunch of wax Agent Smiths.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got a little Matrix action.
A little bit.
Cool, man. What else is going on in Hollyweird? We got our Hollyweird reporters here in Hollyweird.
Yes, live from Hollyweird.
And it's a weird time to be here because the whole thing is dressed up for Halloween. So there's witches everywhere and devils and demons and ghoulies. And it's just weird to think about because every one of those things has its counterpart in real life that we know about. So it's not just like innocent fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You can see kind of what's behind that particular ghost or vampire or witch or serial killer.
Did you guys like were you red pilling any other people on the tours? Were you giving them the esoteric breakdowns?
No, because there really wasn't a whole lot of esoteric material at the actual studios because we only went inside one soundstage area, which is where they shoot the Anna Faris sitcom called Moms. That's the only interior type of stuff we saw, except for the props and whatnot. But there wasn't really a whole lot of esoteric stuff on site at the studios to see. Really, there was because it all changes out. You know what I mean? Like they move everything in and out, and 1 month later, what's inside one giant studio is different than what's there, like a year later. But one bizarre thing was that anytime you see a sitcom and you see the like it looks like a normal room or house, it is extremely tiny. When you actually see the sitcom sets, they're super small. like you expect them to be the size of an actual room, and they're significantly smaller. And it really is just the camera. The camera makes it look like, the sitcom sets are really big, but they're not. They're actually really, really small.
So it's like a cutaway, like a dollhouse sort of thing.
It is very dollhouse, exactly. Yeah. There was a lot of Beetlejuice stuff there too. That was kind of neat. If you like Tim Burton movies, they had quite a few Tim Burton memorabilia pieces. But the only esoteric element that I thought was kind of bizarre was some of the stuff to do with Wonder Woman, which was very like they actually had in the area where all the Wonder Woman costumes are. You can go see all these. They had on display a bunch of they have a number 1 Batman, like Batman issue number 1. They have an issue of Justice League and Superman number 1. So there's like 5 or 6 comic books there that the tour guide says these are together are worth $3 million, which was pretty wild. So and that was pretty neat to see on display with all the actual set costumes and stuff.
Wasn't one of
Kids just throwing them in the trash back in the day.
There were, yeah. Actually, the Batman that they have is missing the cover, so it's only it's the full comic without the cover piece.
Wasn't one of Batman's ancestors Skull and Bones? You ever hear that?
Yeah, actually, in the old show, you can find the clip on YouTube. Batman's dad is mentioned as being in Skull and Bones.
No kidding, like the Adam West.
The Adam
Batman?
West one. Yeah, look up the Adam West Batman Skull and Bones, and it'll come up on YouTube. But anyway, so in the Wonder Woman area, they had this giant, I don't know what to call it, plaque that had these huge they're called cubes for mother cubes for different races, and there's a race for the Atlantis people and Amazon people. I guess Wonder Woman is Amazon,
it was like
right?
Thracier.
Yeah, so it was that was all pretty esoteric type stuff, but otherwise on the sets it was all pretty normal. The cities, it's I don't know. I'll put up a bunch of pictures. I took a whole bunch of pictures, but the sets and the fake cities, it all looks like, kind of what you would expect. It looks just like you would see in the movies. Like Marty McFly's fake city. It looks a lot like that. Like Hilldale when Marty goes, Hill Valley when he goes downtown. It looks like that with like the clock and all that. It looks exactly like that.
Cool, man. Right on.
But yeah, they let you get out and walk around, and that was pretty cool.
I got to find out what house I would be if I went to Hogwarts.
Oh, which one?
I got the Sorting Hat. I got Ravenclaw.
Nice.
For the smart people, they said.
I always thought Ravenclaw was the most metal sounding of the houses.
Yeah, that's a cool band name.
It is.
Is that the evil one?
No. Evil is Slytherin.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and let's see, what do we do? So the night that I got here, or the next night, which was about 5 or 6 days ago, I had an interview with the guy who was a former Freemason, has a fascinating story, and he left that for Orthodoxy. We did an interview that's done pretty good. It's about 6,000 or 7,000 views the last few days, so people can check that out. Then we did, the next day was Sam Tripoli, so we had to drive to LA, find the All Things Comedy Studio, and I thought we did a really good show. I thought it came out really funny. Sam is super intense. He's like, explosive personality. They had another woman on there with us who was a comedian named, I think, Allison Weber. I wasn't familiar with her stuff, but so she was on the show with me, and we were just all kind of bantering about conspiracy topics for about, an hour and a half, and I think it's going to do really good, though, because we touched on a lot of stuff we didn't hit on last time that I was on his show. And then we went to, what do we do next? Oh, we had the audition, well, not an audition, but filming a sizzle reel for a potential TV show that we're doing. So I can't say anything more than that, but I've mentioned it over the last few months to the audience. So it does look like, we've at least gotten to the stage of filming the promo. I don't have, I'm not super sure if it'll get picked up, but, who knows? We'll see. So then today we had we had some time off today. So we went to the Warner Brothers studio tour, and that's about it.
We had breakfast with witches and hippies.
Oh yeah. We went to this weird restaurant in the canyon, and there was like a table of former models talking about, it was like something from Neon Demon. Like if you remember in Neon Demon, how the older models, they like bring the young model into the coven. And we were listening to this going on. It was kind of like, whoa, this is crazy going on.
They were talking about full moon parties
and Egyptian magic and crazy shit. I'm like, where are we?
And there was like a queen bee. Well, first it was really weird because they're all wearing white.
Yeah.
And who all meets for brunch wearing the same outfit almost, except for the only older lady that was with the group was wearing blue, and she was exactly like that lady from Wicker Man. Mm-hmm. Like voice and look and everything. Yeah.
And I've got the mustache like Nick Cage had in Wicker Man, so hopefully I don't get burned in a giant effigy at this thing I'm speaking at. But so anyway, then Saturday I've got to speak at this fair/festival, which you can still come to. You can get the tickets online if you guys want to come. I've tweeted all that out. Anyway, so that's what's up.
Cool, man. Yeah. So for anyone that may have missed when you gave the preview for that, give them the name one more time and make sure people know where your Twitter is so they can find the exact details. If you're out there in California, in the LA area, or in driving distance, and you want to catch Jay Dyer do a talk, as well as a bunch of other people and some musical artists too, right? Give them the deets.
Yeah, basically it's a 2-day fair, October 13th and 14th at the Paramount Ranch, which the festival is Mercado Sagrado Fair. So it's going to be a whole bunch of, like dozens and dozens of different types of organic foods and allopathic, no, not allopathic, what am I trying to say? Homeopathic type people doing chakra things and all that kind of stuff. And then a whole bunch of musicians, some of whom are fairly big name musicians. Other speakers, I don't know any of the other speakers, but they're speaking on, I don't know, all kinds of esoteric, new agey topics probably. So I'm not exactly sure how my talk's going to go down. It may go down like, speaking of the secret space program conference and not talking about aliens, which didn't go down that hot. It was okay, but everybody was like, "Where was the aliens in your talk? Why was there no alien?" And I'm like, I don't do that. But so I may get the same reaction from the hippies. I don't know, but we'll see. I'm talking on Tavistock, social engineering, and Laurel Canyon, which is curious because we didn't go to Laurel Canyon this time. We went to Topanga Canyon, which we're in the Topanga Canyon area. But anyway, so if you want tickets, you can go to mercadosagrado.com. If you type that in, it'll come up, and then you can put in 007 to get $9 off your tickets. That's my discount code for people that want to come see me. But it's actually 2 days, so you can come for both days for all the stuff and, whatever. It's not just me. Right. It's tons of other people.
Cool. Well, we got one of our chat room members that says they're going to be there. They're looking forward to meeting you and hearing your talk. And
cool. Yeah, I've got quite a few messages and emails, people saying that they think they can make it. So hopefully, it'll be a good sized crowd. And I've one of my boxes of books arrived, so people can come chill, chat, and I'll be signing books too. So.
All right, that was gonna be my next question. Is your book gonna be there? You're gonna be signing books? That's awesome, man.
Yeah, well, I've sent two boxes and one has arrived, so I don't know where the other one is, but we'll see.
Excellent. And then what's the plan after that? Are you going to be in the LA area for a while, or
no? Well, there's a private event. I don't know. We're hoping this gal was saying she could try to get Laura Palmer to show up. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that would be really neat if that did happen. But I'm not gonna count on that. But no, I'll be back Monday, I think, to the normal grind.
All right. Well, run the other way if there are Venetian masks involved.
By the way, Hester, yeah, exactly. Some people are asking in my chat, does ACR do things in Austin?
In what?
In Austin? Not yet. We should. We did have one event in Austin, but it was sort of secluded.
Right.
But, yeah, we are looking forward to getting to the point where we can start.
Do you think we could work to doing the South by Southwest next year, like we tried to do this last time and I got sick?
I would love to. If we could pull that off, that'd be great. Yeah, we'll have some discussions offline and see what we can do.
Because I think we have a lot of Texas listeners, and we could tell everybody that we're setting up at a certain area, and people would come, meet you. And I'm sure a lot of people who hear your voice would like to meet you.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. We'd love to do that. And South by Southwest is really an interesting time too, because one of the things that we talk about on the show a lot is how tech affects society. We're pretty critical of it, but there is a crazy amount of industry tech stuff going on there. If there's any new listeners out there that missed our broadcast from South by Southwest this year, that's episode number 150, and there's even a video feed of that one out there. So if you look up
if you look up the show post on all.
Yeah, I really wanted to go to that. I hated missing that one.
Yeah, that was crap timing for getting the bug, man. That sucked. But yeah, let's. I think we should definitely look forward to doing that again in
Bronchitis.
2019. It
Yeah.
probably. Oh yeah. Bleh. It'll probably be in. I think that happens in March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. So we'll talk about that for sure. Maybe we could get a.
Yeah, everybody's in the chat saying, please stay safe while you're in the belly of the beast there, Jay. Well, come to the event and be my Jay's Analysis security. People, Jay's Analysis fans can, safety in number. The Jay's Analysis nerds can come be like a giant army of private security. Right.
Flash mob nerds.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Absolutely. Cool. Let's see here. Well, I don't really have a whole lot more on my notes. I don't feel like getting into geopolitics and social justice and power politics. So, what you guys got? Anything else you want to talk about? Randy, Jay, or Jay, or Jamie, or Spore? Anybody?
Well, what had you guys been talking about other than the torture houses? Are you wanting to close down? Is it time for y'all to go?
I'm not in a hurry to close down. I guess when you got here, Randy, Jay, where the hell were we? I guess we were starting to talk about Kanye visiting the White House. I think that's kind of where we left off.
Yeah, but I think we did right by just sort of slapping that thing around, slapping it around, and just being like, okay, nothing to see here. I mean,
so basically, Kanye's going to run. I mean, this is what we're preparing for, a Kanye ticket in the future, I guess, is what all this is about.
You gotta wonder. I mean,
West versus Obama, as in Michelle, 2020 in the craziest election. We as if it was a movie. You think you saw crazy before. Michelle Obama versus Kanye West, 2020 or 20, whatever. Next time.
No, Oprah.
In the future.
Oprah too. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Right.
An
And
Oprah Hillary ticket. Michelle. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
The double O, interlocking O's could be their like a Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm.
Could be the Oprah Obama ticket, meaning of Michelle. Wow.
Who would
Scary.
Kanye run with, though?
The Rock.
Wow.
That would be
No,
an epic.
Jesse Ventura.
Jesse Ventura. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, he's got a better politic than The Rock, probably.
Yeah.
Here's one. Okay, here's something sort of Hollywood related, since you guys are in Hollywood. Did you catch the Harvey Weinstein sexual assault case is in danger of falling apart?
No.
How so?
Check this out. This was on page 6. The sexual assault case against Harvey Weinstein is in danger of crumbling after Manhattan prosecutors found an accuser's written account of her encounter with the movie mogul that suggests it was consensual. Multiple sources told the Post. And this is the accuser here is Lucia Evans, who's accused Weinstein of forcing her to perform oral sex on him inside his Tribeca office in 2004 when she was a 21-year-old college student and aspiring actress. She's one of 3 women whose allegations of sexual assault are being prosecuted by Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr.'s office. But a prior employer of Evans turned over the personal writings that she'd left on a company computer, which appear to contradict her grand jury testimony.
So is this one of how many cases? So one of them fell apart?
One of 3, and it's not for sure yet. I think actually today there was supposed to be, where's that line here? Looks like, third complaint, prosecution, blah, blah, blah. Sounded like they were going to have a decision today about whether they were going to throw this out. It says this Thursday, Manhattan Supreme Court Justice James Burke is expected to rule on whether to dismiss count 6 of the indictment that relates to Evans. So I'm not surprised to hear that. I kind of, I would never champion for Harvey. I'm sure he's just as skanky as all get out, but I've always kind of wondered about some of these actresses that pimp themselves out, whore themselves out, you know. And
that's kind of backing up what we thought, that you know, this is really tip of the iceberg, but not really that big of a deal.
Right. Yep. And he may even walk away from it with no, well, maybe not the whole thing, but I mean, you know, that's pretty damning right there. If because it's from her own words, it's her own account, you know, basically saying it was consensual. So
there's a ton of actresses that have done films with that Weinstein group. Tons that just haven't said anything, had no opinion on the matter. And I always thought, well, if you did that and you wanted to live your life convincing everybody, you know, you're a talented actress, but that's how you got the job, you're not going to say it. You're not going to say nothing. And there's plenty of that out there, and I think there's plenty of them that felt like they had to do it because there was no other way in the industry and probably didn't like it. I think the answer is yes to both.
Yep, yeah, that whole concept of people willing to do anything to get the fame and fortune.
Yeah.
Makes me think of the Lynch movies, particularly.
Well, I just drove down Mulholland Drive about 4 hours ago, so I hear you.
Yeah, I saw your picture of the road sign on your Instagram, man. That was cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This time we did some different things that we didn't do last time we were here. So we didn't go to Laurel Canyon, but we did go to. Last time we went to the Griffith Observatory, which, by the way, that is super esoteric. That's full of sort of
just the architecture.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of Rosicrucian and Masonic type stuff all over that place. Yeah, and then
if you guys can make it, it's probably a boring place to go, but just again for the architecture, it's probably too hard to fit in. But at some point in time in your travels, even if it's a year or two later, the Central Library in LA is pretty. They got the whole area is actually littered, and you would spot it, I'm sure. Some of the Art Deco stuff that was probably used in movies like what do you call it? Chinatown, different stuff like from that era, and that look is loaded with massive
noir. Yeah.
Doesn't the library have a giant shining pyramid, stained glass, something like illuminated pyramid in stained glass?
It probably does. I can't recall exactly, but it's that type of thing.
Yeah.
It's there. There's even stuff like that on Catalina Island in their movie theater, which is this round building. It's off the coast of LA, probably, I don't know, like depending on if you take the slow boat or the fast boat, but let's say an hour from the mainland, and you can see it on a clear day anyways. But it's the painting on there, it's got that Mercury guy with the winged helmet, and it's really, that place is Art Deco. It was also in the not the theater, but Catalina Island made its way into the Chinatown movie too. I mean, there's a lot of little stuff out this way.
There was a giant billboard from LA Confidential in the warehouse of the props that was really cool, but I couldn't. The tour guide walked off, so I couldn't get her to explain it. But that was pretty neat to see that, because LA Confidential is a pretty good movie from that, based around the period that you're talking about.
Right.
Here's another one. Spore dropped this one to me earlier in the show. This kind of relates back to the icebreaker here when it comes to how especially young people are being influenced by, this sort of popularization of victimhood and crazy torture stuff. Two teenage girls held a 16-year-old girl hostage and tortured her at a London care home in a humiliating ordeal that was broadcast on Snapchat. Cheyenne Stephenson Dilhen, 18-year-old, and her 16-year-old accomplice forced their victim to snort a salt and teabag mixture, swallow her own vomit, and eat noodles soaked in urine from a bowl on the floor. They tied the girl up, punched her, and said that if she tried to escape, they would kill her and her family. The victim was taken prisoner in a 24-hour supported living facility in Barking and Dagenham on March 4th. Wow, that's a pretty crazy story there, Sport.
Well, and they were having people that weren't reporting this. They were having people requesting different types of torture
over Snapchat?
Yeah.
Whoa. That's messed up.
Somebody's asking about, but I'm not trying to change the subject. Somebody's asking about a Facebook purge. Has there been a new purge?
Oh, yeah.
800 accounts that were purged today.
800. And what was the Anti-Media that you said?
Anti-Media was the first people that I heard it from. They tweeted about it, and they've been removed from Twitter as well since I last checked.
Yeah, so that was kind of what got us into our political rant here, I think, was we kind of transitioned into that and noted that, this is all happening as we're approaching midterm elections. So we have all these independent and alternative media sites just getting removed across platforms.
So they removed personal profiles or like media type. I'm familiar with Anti-Media, but so it was like political type things or just random people too.
Political types. It didn't. The article from LA Times didn't say specifically who.
Oh, okay.
It said that it was people that had politically opinionated people, basically, that might have had websites that their Facebook posts would lead to. The impression was given that it was sort of, alt-right or to the right side of the
conspiracy
spectrum.
Sites and stuff.
Conspiracy, yeah.
800, though, that's a huge number. I don't even know if there are 800 alternative and conspiracy-style media sites out there. I mean, I guess there probably are, but, with what happened with the Brazilian guy that we talked about on Sunday Wire and Jay brought up a couple weeks ago on Boiler Room, those were personal accounts. A lot of those, I think it was 200 to 300 personal accounts that were removed also. So if it wasn't, private citizen accounts who are highly political, I'm assuming that will come in another wave as we approach the midterm elections.
Yeah.
So that's more awful leftist.
Did they get were explanations given this time, or was it just automated?
There was. They did give an explanation. You read it to me earlier, Sport. Remember you were saying, I don't know if you have that handy that you were reading, but they're basically saying that they were kind of doing like a reverse fake news thing and saying that Sport's looking it up.
Yeah, there's so many. I had so many screen captures from this article because it was on my phone. But they were basically saying that they were clickbaits and that they didn't want to have Facebook's integrity leading to people's websites. That they didn't feel it was of value to their audience.
Right, like they were kind of. They didn't out and out say it, but from what she read to me, it sounded like they were going towards that same sort of thing they did with the Moldavian, 20-year-olds that were putting fake news in the sidebar, buying advertisements for that kind of stuff. Like along those same lines when it comes to their terms of service that, people are trying to push people off to their own websites where they, are making money off advertisements and doing clickbaity political sort of conspiracy sort of articles.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I remember, I've seen Anti-Media post a lot of junk. I mean, I'm sure they have some good stuff too. I'm not saying that I'm glad they got taken down, but I could see the rationale of what Facebook would say. I'm not saying it's justified. I'm saying that I understand what they're going to say. They're going to say, oh, look, they post this clickbait type stuff. So they're basically just confusing clickbait with fake news, which, by the way, there's clickbait everywhere. So where's the Purge is only for apparently political stuff, right? I mean, there's not, because there's a million clickbait ads everywhere, but they only take down stuff that is political.
Right. Yeah, look at CNN. Look at Yahoo News. I mean, everything's clickbait. That's the whole point, especially for sites that are monetized.
Exactly.
I mean...
It says, okay, here we go. Today we're removing 559 pages and 251 accounts that have consistently broken our rules against spam and coordinated inauthentic behavior. That's what Facebook said. People will only share on Facebook if they feel safe and they trust the connections they make here. So that says nothing.
Yeah, that's a big nothing of a description. Back to platitudes of trust and democracy and blah blah blah.
And the LA Times article basically says, with the midterm elections coming up, removing these sites makes it so they can have a sort of a targeted sway in which people will be focusing their attention and vote. So.
Mm-hmm.
It's a political hit job. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm not a anti-media reader. I don't know what kind of stuff they spin. I know I've seen a lot of their stuff, here and there in the feeds. It gets shared around a lot, but I don't think it's,
It's kind of surprising because it seems like I remember them posting Black Lives Matter type stuff. You know what I mean? Like for a while there, they were posting a lot of the anti-cop stuff, a lot of the BLM stuff. So it's surprising to me that they would get axed, if I recall.
Yeah, I mean they don't seem like that bad. I mean, just like any news site out there these days, you pretty much have to do all your checking yourself and look into who owns it and what kind of other stuff they put out and see if you can figure out if they're biased or partisan or strictly clickbait or if they're putting out fake stories. I mean, news is hard. It's hard work these days to try to figure out what we can actually believe from any media source, whether it's from the mass media cartel down to sites that are owned and run by a single person who's just trying to do their own analysis.
So what about Jones was talking about some kind of failed attempt. I won't say much more than that. You can guess what I'm talking about. Did you guys track that one?
No.
It sounded overblown to me, but some supposedly Democrat person who was against the Enlightenment and Christianity, and the Enlightenment's against Christianity, so it doesn't really make sense, but some wound up Democrat person supposedly was going to come after an event type thing. I don't want to
really?
I don't want to flag YouTube is why I'm speaking so generically.
Wow, no, I hadn't caught that, but I haven't looked at InfoWars in a week.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, but I mean it was just what he was talking about on his audio today. So I figured that would be like a big news thing. I've been too busy to follow the news, but I looked at the news and I didn't see anything. So probably another, I don't know, sensationalized type story.
Yeah, could be. Let's see here. Yeah, if I find his article on that, I'll throw it on the show page so curious listeners can check
Some guy
it out.
with a manifesto, and he was saying that the Trump and the GOP are going to install a dictatorship. Which is ironic because, libertarians and Jones and people like that for a long time would say that about, it's like the exact same thing about Obama. You know what I mean? It's like you get who's the fat guy that makes the documentaries? Michael Moore is like the left version of Alex. Like he's like the left version of Alex who says that the GOP is trying to install the dictatorship, and when it was Obama, Alex would say, "Oh, Obama's installed a dictatorship.
Yep. Yeah, his new movie bombed so bad they pulled it out of the theaters. They said his new movie only made like $150 a day or something like that.
Wow, really? That bad?
Yeah. They pulled it. I think it was only in theaters for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, I see the story you're talking about here. Yeah, it looks like some nut job. Yeah, there's a CBS report on this one. I'll link that on tonight's show page so people can check that out. I haven't read it, so I'll try not to. I'm not going to paraphrase it, but yeah, it looks like some nut job was doing like a bomb threat or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so.
Domestic terrorist angry about the country's direction.
Oh, watch out. Don't say much more than that.
I'll leave it at that.
So China, I was wondering if China, I didn't mean to change the subject. It's just, I'm really tired. I'm all over the place, but
it's all right, go for it.
I wonder if
We're in
did they buy Warner Brothers too? Like they bought all these studios, you know?
I don't know. That's a good question.
You knew about that, right? That China had bought up a bunch of Hollywood.
Yeah, I think I did hear something about that. Let's see here. Does China's buying spree of Hollywood studios. Here we go. 12 Chinese-owned media companies. Let's see here. A fire hose of Chinese investment has been flowing into Hollywood the last few years as Middle Kingdom firms has scooped up production companies and theater chains by the billion. Wow.
Yeah.
And while DC is finally taking notice and is asking the government to take a closer look at foreign ownership of American content companies, Chinese firms have already accumulated a substantial portfolio of media and entertainment-related companies, often at healthy premiums. And Hollywood isn't ready to look that gift horse in the mouth. Okay, here we go.
Does it say which ones?
AMC Theaters.
Right.
Is Dalian Wanda Group, real estate and entertainment conglomerate owned by China's richest man, Wang Jinlang. So let's see, that company paid $2.6 billion for AMC Theaters. Carmike Cinemas, Carmike 10, I guess, another Wanda owned. And Legendary Entertainment, wow, that's a name I see a lot. Wanda paid $3.5 billion for the Jurassic World production company in January, even though Legendary lost $500 million last year, according to blah, blah, blah. What else? Dick Clark Productions? No, say it isn't so. Dick Clark Productions owner, Dalian Wanda Group. Wanda spent $1 billion to acquire the producer of the Golden Globes, American Music Awards, and New Year's Rockin' Eve. So there's a television one.
Well, what's the big movie out now? Crazy Rich Asians, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Yep. Voltage Pictures, STX Entertainment, World Triathlon Corporation, I Am Global, Studio 8, Dichotomy Creative, Cirque du Soleil, Riot Games, who does the League of Legends games, which is one of the most played PC games in the world. Yeah, I don't see Warner in there, but yeah, those are some familiar names for sure. AMC Theaters, you see those everywhere.
I thought Disney bought Time Warner. Is that not right?
You might be right. Disney's bought up so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a merger there. Yeah, just this year it looks like. Yep. Good old Disney. They just own everything.
Mm-hmm. You should see the plans for the new Disney World in China.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I can only
It looks
imagine.
insane. It's going to be like 10 times bigger than Orlando.
Whoa. Do you think they'll have virtual reality rides and stuff in there?
Yeah, probably. And they'll probably have more of that interactive immersion experience that they were
Do you think
talking
they'll have
about.
a torture house?
Get tortured by Goofy.
Yeah, you get the crap beat out of you by Goofy and Mickey.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow. Yeah, that's going to make people want to travel to China just to go to Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
Chinese Disneyland.
But Disneyland Paris wasn't a big hit, was it?
In the LA one?
No, in Paris.
Oh, the Paris.
Yeah.
I don't know much about that one, actually.
Yeah, I don't think the French appreciated it as much as Americans.
I'm kind of not surprised to hear that. I could see that not fitting in French culture. Not that I'm some French world traveler or anything.
They're like, we actually have castles here and fine food.
Right. Yeah, and they don't really have fine food at Disneyland as far as I know.
There were some good things at Epcot.
Because they bring, actual foreign chefs and whatnot in.
Yeah.
Aha.
And
I've
the
been
people,
to Epcot.
the waiters and things are actually native of the country that they're representing there too.
Interesting.
So
I think I went
it's
to
a mini
Epcot
UN
once.
all around the pond of illumination.
Of course.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be?
Yep.
That's perfect. I went to Epcot when it was somewhat new. I think they still had the Michael Jackson Thriller experience. Just to give you a time reference. How small I was when I went there.
You talking about Captain EO, or they actually had Thriller?
Yeah, that's it. Captain EO. That's the
in
one.
Anaheim. That's not Epcot.
No, I went to the Epcot in Orlando.
Oh, you did? They had Captain EO there too?
Yeah, they did.
Oh.
Back in the day.
Which I watched not too long ago, by the way. It's terrible. And I want to say it's like Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas kind of worked on it, if I recall. And it's so dumb, dude. It's bad and it's dumb. It's just... It's like
Save the world.
Save the World with music and transhumanism. It's very bizarre.
Ooh, creepy. I'd rather go to China for Disney World.
Yeah, I think Captain EO closed down in the late 90s, I think is when it... Because I read the Wikipedia not too long ago.
Yeah, it was the 80s when I went. Late 80s, probably something like that.
The Angelica Houston plays the bad person, creature, witch, whatever, alien. She's pretty good. That part looks pretty neat, but everything else is just garbage. But there's no telling how much that ride made. It probably made them $1 zillion. Yeah, but anyway.
Made them enough money to buy Star Wars and Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, if a ride lasts for, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, that's a pretty good span. Well, you guys, I am getting tired. I think I'm going to shut it down unless anybody's got anything else they want to throw out there. Spore, you got any other articles you want to cover tonight? Any other topics? Any other things? Any saved rounds? Final thoughts for the Boiler Room?
I'm good, thanks.
How about you guys, Jay and Jamie? Glad to have you guys with us tonight. Thanks for fighting traffic to get into the Boiler Room.
Sorry it was late. I'll probably keep talking a little bit to the Jay's Analysis audience since I got here late, and I know you guys have been going a while already, so I'll keep going. But thank you for having me.
All right, cool. Yeah, no problem. And let me know if you want me to splice the end half of your show onto the full version of this show for your Spreaker upload tomorrow. I can do that if you need.
Yeah, okay, whatever. I mean, you don't have to work overtime for me, but whatever's cool.
All right, man. Cool. It'd be no problem. Just let me know.
Okay.
And yeah, have fun while you guys are out there. And everybody get out. And if you're in California, go see Jay speak and get yourself a signed copy of Esoteric Hollywood.
Word. All right. Thanks, man.
All right.
Have a good night, you guys.
All right,
There
you too.
they go.
All right. What's up, Jay's Analysis? How are you guys tonight? And again, I apologize. It was going to be so much earlier, but you know how the traffic is. If you've never been here, the traffic is the worst in the world, probably. Maybe there's worse traffic somewhere. I don't know. But it's like, I don't know. It's like this guy is driving everywhere, and his bowl cut is mesmerizing you to the point of running you off the road on purpose and almost killing you. So basically, you're at the point of death every time you get on the, I don't know, the 101, the 5, all of them. They're all deadly. They're all highways to hell. They're all the lost highway. So I guess David Lynch has learned that since he lived out here in this vicinity. And this guy right here, Robert Blake, with his camera. Here's Hollywood for you. This guy. This is who runs Hollywood, that guy. The devil with a camera. Anyway. So, all right. In come the super chats. Thank you. We got super chats. If you guys want to send me some super chats, that will help me out. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention when the talk is. My talk is Saturday at 11:15. So, you probably want to get there around 11-ish if you can. I don't really understand the parking or any of that stuff. You can read on the website, I guess, about how to navigate all that. But I will be speaking for, I don't know, an hour and a half, something like that. And I'll go ahead and read a couple super chats. I'm not quitting yet, but I'll read a couple super chats. Hang out with you fools. Jolene K 499. Thank you, Jay and Jamie. I love your piece on Rosemary's Baby. Yeah, YouTube made that age restricted. I guess because, Rosemary's Baby is on YouTube, but maybe that's age restricted too. I don't know. Anyway, thank you. I'm glad you thought it was incredible. Any plans to revisit? I'll probably eventually have an analysis of Rosemary's Baby. I don't think I put Rosemary's Baby in the new book. I don't think I did. Evan Schultz, $7. Vox Day, Alt Hero Q, Indiegogo campaign, retroactively canceled over a week after it ended. I don't understand what you mean by Alt Hero Q. You're saying his Indiegogo campaign was retroactively canceled after it ended? How is that possible? Like they asked for his money back? Or what does that mean, Evan? Can you elaborate? And I'll read on that. But anyway, a lot of people said debate Vox Day, and he said multiple times he doesn't have time to do it, so it's not up to me. It ain't up to me. I'll debate whoever. I just haven't found any recent people willing to debate. I think there was going to be a debate with Jim Go, but we both decided that would be really to no purpose. So he didn't find any of the stuff I talked about at all convincing, he said. And I said, well, if that's how it is, then there's not really much point of debating. So we didn't debate, but I don't know who else to. Eventually, somebody will come along, and everybody says Michael Jones. He's already declined. He's not going to do it. So I don't know any more Catholics that there could be. Oh yeah, we should mention as well. Thank you, Gabriel R, for 5 thoughts on the GOC announcement today. Well, unfortunately, this is everything that the video that I did a couple weeks ago predicted, right? I said that I felt like this was going to happen. We felt like this was going on for a long time, and there's been whispers that what this signifies is down the road, probably 10 years from now, the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America, at least, seeking rapprochement with Rome. So it's not just about Ukraine. There's the very real possibility as some people have whispered to me who are in the know, who are clerical status, that this probably signifies the ecumenical rapprochement with, well, whoever's Frank's successor. Maybe it'll be Frank. I don't know. Whoever is in the office of the so-called infallible chair of Peter is supposed to be reconciling these Greeks. And that, if the Patriarch of Constantinople has been a long-time asset of NATO, which he is, obviously, and if the CIA and NATO and Atlantis' power block, has achieved their ends in the Ukraine, why not go ahead and just put Bartholomew back in union with Frank and the papacy, right? I mean, why not? Might as well. So, talk to the Irish journalist John Waters. I don't know who that is. What's he talk about? Does he talk about corruption in Rome or something? I don't think I know any Irish people off the top of my head, but I'll see who he is. Several people said debate that Duvid guy. We were going to do that on Ralph Retort, but Ralph decided it was too boring. so we decided not to do that. I'd debate Francis. That would be a fun debate. He would lose when it came to the essence energy distinction stuff. I guarantee you. Pope Francis would lose that debate on that topic. Who's saying I'm not convincing? What's going on here? So, yeah. Oh, the comedian that was going to be on Jay's Analysis. He kept saying he would do it and then never did. So, then when I was on with Worski, he said he would come on with me and Andy, and he didn't do it. So, after a while, if people don't respond, I'm not going to chase them down. If you don't come on the show, then it's because they didn't want to. So, but then I've also found that a lot of times people that you reach out to them to try to interview them, if they're a significantly larger audience, sometimes it takes people a year or two before they'll do an interview, right? So, it was that way with Syrian Girl. I messaged her to do an interview a long time ago, but it took a while to grow my audience, and then she was willing to do it. So maybe if Jay's Analysis continues to grow, we can get some of these bigger name people on. It was Owen, by the way. So if you're a mutual Owen Benjamin fan or whatever, you could just keep messaging him, because after a certain point, how's he going to be able to say, I don't know who Jay Dyer is? I texted with him and said I would go on his show probably 10 times, but I don't know who he is. Yeah, come on. I don't think Michael Voris would do a debate. I would debate him, but I don't think he would do it. We've talked about the climate change hoax. We've talked about the scare tactics for many years. Many boiler rooms where we talk about it. And correct, yes, Jim Goad said that he didn't find any of the points I was making convincing, but that's because the topic was over. I felt that Jim Goad was not allowing any flexibility with language used in Scripture. So sometimes things are spoken of poetically, sometimes things are spoken of anthropomorphically, and he was just being overly rigid in reading these texts, like, oh, well, it says God changed his mind, God can't change his mind. So this whole thing is stupid. And so when I try to explain, well, there's anthropomorphic language, and he's like, oh yeah, don't try to bamboozle me with your big words. It's just a contradiction in the text. I'm like, well, Amos is not going to, on the one hand, talk about the good of the law, and then 2 chapters later say, that God doesn't desire animal sacrifices, that's not a contradiction. He's saying, using hyperbole, God doesn't desire sacrifices if your heart isn't right, because God gave the law and said do the sacrifices, right, for the appropriate time period. And his point was, no, it's a contradiction, and you won't allow it to be a contradiction. I'm like, the same sort of strictures that you're using about language here don't apply to any texts, right? I mean, if we read Don Quixote, if we read Plato, if we read, Homer, we don't read Homer and say that with this overly literalist bent that it's all contradictions, so the text doesn't matter. No, every text has allowances for hermeneutical questions, which is just interpretation, right? The science of interpretation. It doesn't matter what text. Any text has principles of interpretation. And so you have to take into account the audience and the type of language being used. And so, he didn't find my points on that convincing. So what point would there be to debating it? If a person's not willing to, at least allow nuances of language, different types of texts, or hyperbole within a text, then there's nothing to debate. Anthropogenic climate change, you mean? Not anthropomorphic. Yeah, I like Aaron and Melissa at TruthStream. They've always done good work. We did an interview a long time ago. You can still find it on Technocracy. Yes, I did see Owen Benjamin saying that he was raped by Matt Damon. That was pretty funny. Correct, Gabriel R. Good question. When it says the divine nature, it means the uncreated energies, which are emanations or processions or rays of the divine nature. So they are from the divine nature. They're proper to the divine nature. But they're not exactly equated with the divine nature. If they were, we would become the fourth person in the triad. Right? If you were deified, you would become the fourth person of God. Right? That's not possible. And so that's why in Orthodox theology, very distinct from Roman Catholic theology, the grace that you get in theosis, justification, sanctification, etc., for us it's all the same thing, is not the same thing as the Holy Spirit. It's not the person of the Holy Spirit, and it's not the essence of the Holy Spirit. It's the operation of the Holy Spirit. So that's very important. And in fact, that's how we know that Roman Catholicism teaches created grace, because it's actually in their condemned propositions that a person in justification gets. You don't get the person of the Holy Spirit. Many of the Roman Catholic theologians, by the way, said that for a while. They said, what do you get in sanctification, justification? Well, you get the Holy Spirit himself, his divine person. Well, you can't do that. You can't merge with the Holy Spirit. So you get the grace of the Holy Spirit. That's the Orthodox position, right? And that's uncreated grace, the operations of the Spirit. If you look at what Paul says in Corinthians, when he talks about the operations of the Spirit that we all possess in terms of the spiritual gifts, the word there is energeia, right? The energeia, the operations of the Spirit. So Paul's very clearly teaching the distinction between the hypostasis of the Spirit and the work or the energy, the operation of the Spirit. No, I asked Hoffman to do a discussion or debate, and he also declined, or said maybe one day. So, because of his book on the occult Renaissance Church of Rome, which I thought was fair, calling out the Hermeticism in Rome, actually goes back to the Renaissance, which, by the way, is coming very close to the Orthodox thesis, that the Augustinian shield and the filioque are a direct pathway to Hermeticism. This is why the Renaissance papacy became so steeped in Hermeticism. So it's not just Vatican II and liberals of the 20th century and modernists and Pius X stuff, right? Pacendi, Dominici. It's the whole second millennium of the West is bathed in these Hermetic presuppositions. And of course, that's the thesis of Dr. Farrell's God, History, and Dialectic. But as I pointed out, I think last time in the last stream I did or so, 2 streams ago, the newly printed Dogmatic Theology of Vladimir Lossky also makes this point, which is a book he wrote in 1930, newly printed by St. Vladimir's. And what does it say? It says that the Western Augustinian doctrine of the dyad producing the Spirit is the Hermetic doctrine. Wow, exactly. So, in other words, Dr. Farrell wasn't the first person to make that point. It was made by Dr. Lossky in 1930. So anyway, I hope that helps you, Gabriel R. I know it's a little confusing because it does say, in 2 Peter, the divine nature. I read an essay on that a long time ago because I was really, about 10 years ago, I was really sort of stumped by that one because I thought, well, does that not mean that we partake of the divine essence? And no, it doesn't. But it's a little technical when you understand that the energies of God are natural energies. So if you read St. John Damascus, for example, he'll talk about in the first book that God has multiple energies that are also one. So he speaks of the divine energies as plenteous, as multiple, and as one. Now, why are they one? They're one because they come from one God with one divine nature. Right? The Father, Son, and the Spirit all participate, all share the same divine nature in equal dignity. There's no subordination in terms of ontological being, right? They're all ontologically equal. However, there is a order to the ordo theologiae. There is an order to the persons, and that's why the Father is the monarchia of the Godhead. But it's the same with the divine energies. All energies also originate from the Father. They come to us through the Son and in the Spirit. Right, so every energy is also Trinitarian. This is the teaching of St. Basil as well, and Lossky covers this at length. Most Orthodox dogmatic works will cover this as well. But what that shows us is that the divine energies are also, they're natural, right? So they're not proper to the persons, they're proper to the divine nature. And this is because will is a property of nature. This is why there's only one will in God. If will was a property of person, there would be 3 wills in God, and the Nestorians would be right? But they're not. So will is a property of nature, not of person. So that gets into some very obtuse sort of Christological stuff that maybe we'll talk about at a different time. But anyway, it's getting kind of late, so we've had a good talk here. I want to thank you guys. Sorry I was late getting to the show, but God bless, and I will talk to you soon. And if the hippies come and get me, if Hollywood elitists come after me, I'm in Topanga Canyon, and I am speaking at the Paramount Ranch Saturday and Sunday. So everyone now knows my whereabouts. So anyway, Topanga, banana. You guys have a good night. God bless.